Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you can join me here today and I hope you find today's session useful and beneficial. I have been looking for my purpose in life for a while now, and in pursuit of that purpose I've tried to read different things, I've tried to have new experiences, I've tried to do things that will help me understand and realize what this purpose is, because I don't know what the purpose is and I don't know what it looks like, which means I don't know what I'm looking for as such. And so it's useful for me to try different things, read different things, go to different places to try and understand what it is that I'm required to do in this world, because I still don't know. And in pursuit of that, I've been reading a lot of books on different topics, but especially on purpose and what it means to have meaning in life. And one of the books that I came across recently that was a very powerful book that I found very useful and I learned a lot of lessons from that book is a book by David Brooks. The book is called The Second Mountain. Now, David Brooks is a prolific author. If you've read his other books, you'll know that he's a very well-established author, and anything he writes, you would expect to be of the standard that you expect from a good writer. But this book was very interesting. I found it an eye-opening book, quite a deep book as well, because it talks about things that because other books just talk about the surface level of what the purpose is and what you're looking for in life and all of these things, but David goes into an in-depth analysis of what it means to have a well-lived life. Socrates called it examined life, a life where when I die, I want to have known that I lived my life well and I lived my life with a good purpose, and it was a life not wasted, a life worth living. That's my goal for when I die. So in pursuit of that, I said, let me read this book and see what I can get from it. And honestly, I learned a lot. Let me read an excerpt of this book to show you what the second mountain actually is. So it says, the world tells us that we should pursue our self-interests, career wins, high status, nice things. These are the goals of our first mountain. But at some point in our lives, we might find that we're not interested in what other people tell us to want. We want things that are truly worth wanting. This is a second mountain. That is profound, because we've all grown up with this whole mentality, and we've fed these to our kids, and our parents fed this to us, and that was fed to them by their parents, that life is binary, right? We are born, we grow up, we go to school, we go to college, university, etc., get married, have children, have a job, have a career, become successful, get ill, and die. And essentially a lot of like 50, 60, 70% of the population, that's how they live. Because that's the narrative that's been told to us. That's how we should be living. But what if that's not how I want to live? What if I feel like I'm unfulfilled in this rat race, that in this idea of what life should be like I've been fed into? What if I feel like that isn't for me? What if there's more to life than just this whole rat race, making money, going for holiday once or twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times if you're lucky, earning a lot of money, buying a house, having children, and then dying? That seems to be a bit mundane and boring, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to just be stuck in the mundane and the boring. I want my life to mean something, to be worth something, so that when I die, I know I have done something worth mentioning. Maybe not to everyone else, but at least to myself, that I have done something that I am proud of, that my work would show for itself. And that's what I want. And that's what the second mountain is proposing. So basically, the second mountain is saying that we have this narrative that you should get a job and you should... Basically, it's a very self-centered world where it's all about me and what I do and my success in my career, in my marriage and my children, my this, my that. But then there comes a point in life when you realize, actually, that doesn't give you pleasure though, does it? It doesn't make you really happy. Maybe the we should make us happy when you dedicate yourself in service to others. And I found this personally, when I go out of my way to help someone and they really appreciate it, I feel good, because I know I've done something that has touched someone's life. And that's not the first mountain, that's the second mountain. That's where I've realized that actually I've reached the peak of my first mountain. And actually I haven't reached the peak of my first mountain, but hypothetically, if I reach the peak of my first mountain, I've got the best job I could ever ask for. I've got the biggest bank balance in the world. I've got everything I wanted, the best children, the best spouse, everything. But then I realized, actually, no, there's a different mountain I want to climb, because this doesn't make me happy. And this is what the second mountain is all about. And I think it's important to think about life in this way, where you stop thinking about yourself and think more about others. And that doesn't mean that you just forget about yourself completely. No, of course not. Of course not. That's not the case. But all I'm trying to say is that maybe there's something more to life than just this mindless pursuit of pleasure. So in one of the chapters, he talks about something called the aesthetic life, and I've touched on this in a different video. The aesthetic life is something that Kierkegaard, Soul Kierkegaard, was a 20th century or 19th century philosopher. He spoke about this as well, and he basically said an aesthetic life is a life full of fun, where you just do things that make you happy, go from experience to eating out and doing all of these things that just give you immense pleasure and joy. And that's all life is. But actually, that after a while you feel like life becomes very empty, because you haven't done something of worth, something of meaning. And that's where the difference between joy and happiness comes in. So let me read another excerpt from the book, where he speaks about this concept of joy and happiness. And I think that's something that's very important to really consider. So what does he say? He says, in all forms of happiness, we feel good, elated, uplifted. But the word happiness can mean a lot of different things. So it's important to make a distinction between happiness and joy. What's the difference? Happiness involves a victory for the self, an expansion of self. Happiness comes as we move towards our goals. When things go our way, you get a big promotion, you graduate from college, your team wins a Super Bowl, etc., etc. Right? Joy tends to involve some sort of transcendence of self. It's when the skin barrier between you and some other person or entity fades away and you feel fused together. Joy is present when mother and baby are gazing adoringly at each other's eyes, when a hiker is overwhelmed by the beauty in the woods and feels at one with nature, when a gaggle of friends are dancing deliriously in unison. Joy often involves self-forgetting. Happiness is what we aim for on the first mountain. Joy is the byproduct of living on the second mountain. And we've all felt this when we have gone out of our way to help someone, just not wanting anything, just because we want to be good and we want to be nice, and then you see that person succeeding in what he's doing or getting what he wanted because of you. You feel a sense of joy that you've held. Assuming you don't feel envy or jealousy, that's another ill that we can talk about at a different point in time. But imagine, let's imagine that doesn't exist. You feel a sense of joy and satisfaction that you can't really pinpoint. There's no monetary value. They haven't paid you for this advice or this good deed that you did for them. But you just feel immense joy and happiness. And that's what the second mountain is all about. When we climb up the second mountain, we feel this immense joy and pleasure and satisfaction that we would never get in the first mountain. Because yes, we're happy we got a promotion. Yes, we're happy we've slaved away our life to achieve like multi-million dollars, multi-million pounds in our bank account, to go to the destinations of our dreams, to fly business class and first class, etc. But then after a while, it becomes boring. I felt this when I bought a new car. I was ecstatic. I was so happy. It was the love of my life, but the car of my dreams, and I realized this is what I wanted. But then after a few years, the car is just a car to me now. It doesn't feel anything. It doesn't feel like anything. Like if someone sees my car and says, "Oh wow, what an amazing car," I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's not a bad car. It gets me from A to B. But 5 years ago when I bought the car, it was a dream come true. Like I loved it. But now it no longer matters because it's just old news. And that's what first mountain things do to you. You crave for these things in the first mountain, but when you reach there, you realize actually my life hasn't really the marginal output of my life hasn't really improved as much. Like inner life. Maybe you might become, because you have more money, you might live a better way, have a better way of life. You might get a bit happy, but the real joy and satisfaction that comes from within is not there, and it hasn't been there because of being in the first mountain. Now, David Brooks divides the book into different sections, and he basically has four sections where he basically pinpoints on what it means to climb a second mountain. The first section is vocation, second one is marriage, third one is philosophy and faith, and fourth one is community. All of these are very important. So, for example, in the vocation one, he talks about what it means to have a job and career and all of these things that have true worth and meaning. Or, for example, what it means to be in a marriage where you really like climbing the second mountain together. You are true soulmates on a journey in pursuit of life. Or, for example, philosophy and faith, something that you find a belonging to a religion where you have a sense of belonging and you want to work towards that. For example, if you're a believer in God, you want to dedicate your life to God, and that's the second mountain. Or community, where communities are fantastic ways of looking out for each other. This is something in the 21st century, because of social media. Community is something that we really lack. We don't have a lot of it. Very few people are blessed to have a community of people that they can find belonging to. They can find love and respect within. They can open up themselves to. Very few people have that, because in the 21st century, with the social media boom, it just doesn't exist. And that's something that we should try and strive and inculcate in our lives. And that is a second mountain, because in a community you look out for each other, not because you want to get paid, no, because you genuinely love your brother and your sister. You genuinely have so much love and respect for them that you want to see them succeed. You want to help them. You want to be there for them. And that is what a second mountain is. And that is what gives us joy in the second mountain. And I think it's a very powerful book. I would highly recommend you reading this book if you want to find out what your true purpose in life is, and if you feel very unfulfilled and not very, you haven't really achieved much in your life, and you feel like you want to get places, get somewhere. It's a useful perspective to have, that the second mountain is what I should be aiming for. And that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't go on the first mountain. I'll tell you why. Because if you go straight for the second mountain, you'll always crave to be on the first mountain. So the purpose of being on the second mountain, it just defies the purpose, because you want to be there because you want to. You are there because you want to be there. But then if you're just there but you still crave to be on the first mountain, then you really haven't achieved it. So the way to do it, for me personally, is to climb the first mountain first, to realize the pitfalls and the dangers and the places where you don't feel happy, where you realize that there is no true joy there for yourself, because this is your journey in life. This is my journey, and I need to investigate and find this out for myself, because then it becomes powerful. If someone tells you the first mountain, if David Brooks told me the first mountain is not worth it, and having all this money, $1 million in your account is not worth it, I will like, yes, it's easy for you to say, because you live on the second, you've already done the first mountain, now you're in the second mountain, because you're so rich and you have a lot of money and all of that stuff. But it doesn't matter though, does it? Because his word will not count for anything. But if I have done the work myself, if I have climbed the journey myself, if I've done everything I need to do on the first mountain, and I've realized all of this for myself, then that becomes a powerful way of change. It becomes so powerful, because I want to change from within myself, and that's what we should be aiming for. So I hope this has encouraged you to go ahead and read this book, The Second Mountain. It will definitely give you clarity in terms of what you want out of life, and what meaning you should be looking for in life, and all of the things that relate to the first mountain versus the second mountain, looking at joy versus happiness. So yes, I hope you do read the book, and I'm so glad you can join me here today. And until then, see you soon. Thank you.